Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. We are getting back to our bread and butter. We are doing tier lists today. This tier list in particular is about Heroic Plus. This is fully speculative and it's just based on current overall performances from what we've seen on beta, what we've seen in pre-patch, and just from my own personal experience in playing the Wrath expansion. Now, just to be fully transparent here, the main reason I really wanted to make these videos is because I want to continue the conversation about Heroic Plus. I think the more that we talk about it, the more likely Blizzard is to listen to us and to hear us, and hopefully they'll be able to hit the nail on the head for what exactly it is that we want with Heroic Plus when it comes out in Phase 2. So, what makes this tier list different than any other tier list? This is mostly keeping in mind 5-man comp. So in a 5-man composition, things like the buffs that you bring to the table and the cooldowns that you bring might be extremely valuable. And you'll see that as we go through this. Now, don't expect any, I don't expect any key pushing from Heroic Plus at all. So this is all just like a timer based and just meeting that one timer. It's extremely likely that this is going to be a very doable timer, and your group comp shouldn't matter at the end of the day. You should be able to do this with 5 buddies of yours and just knock it out, no problem whatsoever. I wouldn't overthink your raid comp or your group comp just for this reason. This content will never be meta enough because of the loot that drops in it to say, oh, we don't want to bring this class because Rug said it was a C or D tier. We want to bring this class. It's not going to be that big of a deal. This is strictly just to lay out like what classes are going to be really, really good, or what classes do we expect to be very good in a Heroic Plus setting, and then go from there. That way we can maybe optimize this for, you know, the top 1%ers who, people who actually want to push for, like, you know, the world's fastest clears of whatever dungeon. Now, today's video, we're going to be talking about tanks. So let's jump right into it. First tank that we're going to talk about is Prot Paladin. Now, Prot Paladin to me is a no-brainer S-tier tank. They are an S-tier tank, always have been in every form of the matter in Wrath of the Lich King. Now, what makes them really good in a Heroic Plus setting is they just bring so many buffs to the table. Having one Paladin in your party for Kings or Might, things like that, are going to be really valuable to you. If there is a mechanic that is like super punishing, they have your Divine Sack for your party as well. And I don't know how hard these dungeons will be, but I do anticipate having that Ardent Defender in such a low cooldown, that cheap death mechanic with a Prot Paladin just provides blanket safety net for your party to hit timers, because a wipe might cause you a huge delay. So a Prot Paladin gives such good safety, plus they're extremely tanky, and I think block tanks in general can just build up really good block sets, which is going to help with their threat and help with their survivability. Prot Paladin just has everything that you want. They are just a no-brainer S tier. Now, next tank we're going to talk about is Prot Warrior. Prot Warrior, another S tier tank. In fact, I think you can maybe swap these two in terms of their position, 1 and 2. They are just neck and neck and basically dead even to me. In any normal setting, like a raid setting, you know me, I'm saying Prot Warrior is like down in C tier, D tier, F tier. But in a Heroic Plus setting, this is where they shine. This is like what they were made for almost. They bring good buffs with Battle Shout if you don't have any other Paladin to bring a Might, if you have Physical in your party. If you feel like you need the health, they got Commanding. They have very good survivability, with Shield Wall being one of the best tank cooldowns in the game. Just in terms of its raw damage reduction. Shield Block being a really low cooldown. They're extremely mobile. I think Intervene is low-key slept on in general. I think Vigilance is solid. I think Shockwave is so good. Think about healers like a Holy Paladin, for example. If your healer is a Holy Paladin, they might struggle with keeping up with your high pace and your high mobility. Thankfully, Shockwave allows you to AoE stun all the mobs around you, which allows your healer a valuable time to catch up to your position to then start healing you. Shockwave is just phenomenal for this. On top of all of these things, Prot Warriors do ridiculous damage, like insane damage. And I think that damage just is invaluable. That is just incredible to have, and they just are absolutely like going to be kings for this reason. In fact, I'm confident putting them over Prot Paladin, but the two of them are standing alone in S tier, and they are just phenomenal. Now, let's talk about Boomy. Now, I actually think Boomy is an A tier tank here. I think if the dungeons end up being semi-difficult or semi-punishing in terms of how hard some of these mechanics might hit, or how hard some of these affixes might hit, if Blizzard adds any at all, I think Bear is actually solid. I think Swipe being uncapped is going to be big to their advantage. They bring Gifts of the Wild, they bring you an Innervate. I don't anticipate you needing the Innervate, but it's there if you need it, especially if you're running something like an Arcane Mage, or just a healer that is maybe hybrid or something. You also have a Battle Res. The Battle Res is super clutch in a Heroic Plus setting, as losing someone means that you have to spend a lot of time resing them, a lot of mana resing them, and that Battle Res, even if it's a Battle Res spent out of combat, saves your healer valuable mana and just saves your party valuable time. So Bear, I feel great about. I think they have good mobility with Charge, their Dash, their aquatic form for Gundrak, for example. They're just solid all around. I'm very happy with Bear, and you can build them very aggressively with lots of, high agility, high strength, whatever the case may be. You can get very aggressive with your Bear builds and do a lot of solid damage. So I feel very good about them being in an A tier. Now, the DK tanks are very interesting because I think the difficulty of Heroic Plus makes a big difference as to which DK tank spec you would go. And just kind of potentially maybe that becomes like which affixes are being applied. I would say if we were in a world where we were key pushing, Blood would be phenomenal. I would put Blood in a key pushing setting in an A, potentially even S tier. But knowing that we're likely just going to have one difficulty of Heroic Plus, I feel better about putting Blood actually in like a B tier role, potentially even C. Blood just doesn't do what I'm looking for in a Heroic Plus setting. Their damage is abysmally low, like the worst ever. They do provide good buffs with 10% AP. You can provide Imp Icy Talons, but if you provide Imp Icy Talons, you're not going to have Morbidity, and Morbidity is really important here. I think you can't do a solid paced Heroic Plus without Morbidity. So you're just not going to have the right environment for a Blood tank to really excel. That single target threat that they're just kings for is probably not going to be the biggest thing in the world. I would imagine most boss fights lasting roughly in the ballpark between 30 seconds to 50 seconds, depending on buffs there. And so I just feel like B tier is more where I see Blood being useful. Their self-healing is pretty negligible and not too important. Although I do think you could push the value of Blood DK very high. You might have to tweak the spec a bit, maybe go Deep Blood and then go for Morbidity. That's something to talk about another day, but I feel good about putting them in a B tier, just behind the other main tanks. Frost, to me, feels like either high B, like above Blood, or an A tier tank. Frost is actually a solid tank, and I'm sure a lot of you who have gotten your hands on the DKs and pre-patch have gotten to experience just how satisfying it is to play a Frost tank. That snappiness with the Killing Machine, Howling Blast as you approach a pack is phenomenal. It's very satisfying. If you're playing Frost tank, you're most likely still going to go Morbidity as well, which means you're going to be dropping D&D on pretty much every single pack, unless of course you hit them with a big crit Howling Blast. Frost has really good survivability. UA being only a 1 minute cooldown means they have a lot of high overall armor, and they just bring, basically the same buffs as a Blood DK. The Imp Icy Talons is solid if you're not getting it anywhere else. I feel good about them putting them into an A tier, as they're going to do so much more damage than a Blood tank would. Now, Unholy, however, I feel better about Unholy than I do a Frost. In fact, I'd probably put Unholy in an A tier. Or if we wanted to make a bigger gap here, what we could do is something like this, potentially. Where Feral and Unholy are in their own A tier. That's kind of how I foresee this tier list going. I think Unholy is just very much slept on. Like, so slept on. And if you went a deep Unholy build, you're not only going to be bringing really good damage because of Morbidity again, and then of course all your other talents, which are going to increase the spell damage done on your Death and Decay. With your Death and Decay being your bread and butter, you'll be able to use that every single pack, and you'll do phenomenal damage. It won't just be a D&D that's tickling like a Frost DK's D&D would. It'll be a DK that means something, that actually hits hard, does good threat and good damage. And you're going to be bringing Ebon Plaguebringer, which is a really, really good buff to bring. If you're not going to have a Unholy DK in your group, an Unholy DK tank is going to be awesome, and maybe like the tank of choice for a like spell cleave centered group comp. So I think Unholy is super slept on. It's a really solid and really fun way to play DK tank. I personally prefer it over Frost. You're more than welcome to disagree with me there, but I think in a Heroic Plus setting with some gear, Unholy does need a little bit of gear to tank well. I kind of see them up in the A tier with Feral Druid. These two could go either way for me. Now that's it for tanks, guys. I'm going to do a video on melee, I'm going to do a video on casters, and I'm going to do a video on healers. So thank you so much for watching. Again, this is fully speculative. If you disagree with anything about my predictions here on tanks, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you have any suggestions or anything that you would want Blizzard to do with Heroic Plus, say so. Make your voices heard. If you love where we're going with this conversation, then join a board, hit that like and subscribe to the channel, as we're going to be talking a lot about Heroic Plus as long as Blizzard is going to continue to push the narrative of that coming in phase 2. All right, guys, I will see you all on the next tier list video. Peace.